Welcome, everyone, to the Self-Centered Podcast. My name is Ezekiel, and on this show, it is our mission to help you achieve a more joyful and fulfilling life. We do that by discussing the 4 pillars of a fulfilling life: finance, fitness, faith, and friendships. Today, I have the honor and the privilege to bring a personal mentor of mine onto the show. This individual has played a tremendous role in my life, and I can honestly say that I would not be where I am today in business and financially if I didn't have the good fortune of working with this individual. So she is a real estate broker and has been in the real estate field for 7 years now. Her first year in real estate, she was the Rookie of the Year at her brokerage and has also she's earned top producer 3 different times. And every other year in real estate, she has placed in the top 3 in terms of production and volume. So please welcome our guest, Holly Vejrostek, to the show. Holly, thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. So I do have a set of questions that I ask all of our guests. Our audience is going to learn a lot from these questions, and they're going to have, the pleasure to learn from you and hear a little bit about your journey and how you got to the place that you are today, professionally and in your personal life. All right, so let's start off with our first question here. The first question that I have for you is, please tell us a little bit about your childhood. At that point in time, did you ever see yourself doing what you're doing today?
So the answer for that second question is no. I actually never had a vision to get into real estate until my adult time. As a kid, I was just very free, and I never really had a plan. I never had anything that I was looking to be when I grew up. I knew I wanted to be a mom, and that was kind of the only thing. I was a very fun and energetic kid that talked a lot. I talked all the time, and I got in trouble for that. Every parent-teacher conference.
All right, awesome. So you've always been kind of an extroverted, outgoing individual, and I can see how that would help you in real estate.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I did go through a time in my life that all kind of got shut down quite a bit. I was bullied quite a bit as a kid in middle school. Ended up getting jumped and in the hospital for a few days, and that actually, it put me in a pretty dark place for a long time, and I had to crawl myself out of that. And I've actually used that I've gone through as a ladder to get myself through a lot of different things.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I know that that's very personal. And, we were talking just before we started the show here, and we did mention that some of the experiences that we go through, those hardships and those struggles, they really help us become who we are. And if it wasn't for some of that adversity, I don't think that, we might be able to achieve the certain things that we do.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. We have to take some of our darker times, some of the challenges that we've gone through, to help us keep going through things as we go on in life.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you. And I know I didn't mention in the intro, but you are a mother, and it seems like you're a very devoted, very caring mother. So you've accomplished that part.
I have, and that's the one thing that I always knew that I wanted to be, was a mom, and that I take very big pride in that.
Awesome. All right. Okay, so second question that we have for you here. How did you start in real estate, and what drew you towards it?
So, kind of funny story. I was a stay-at-home mom for 9 years, and I had a friend that was in real estate, and she had asked me over and over and over again if I would get into real estate with her. And I always said no, I was not interested at all. I had no desire to be in real estate. So as my kids got older, I decided that they were pretty self-sufficient. They were at school all day long, and what was I doing with myself? So there was one more day that my friend had asked me to join with her, and I said, you know what, I'm going to do this. And it was really just going to be part-time. It was going to be something that I did for me, right? I had done so much for my kids, for my husband, for my house, that it was time to do something for me. And it really was just supposed to be a part-time filler, but it grew very quickly.
Right. And look at you now.
Yes.
So that is awesome. So have you always had have you had an interest in properties in real estate, or was it more, like you said, just something to do, or was it more the relationship part and the communicating with folks?
It was really, for me, it was helping people on a bigger level. So I've always been a giver, and helping people has always been my passion. My very first job was at a retirement home, and I got to help the older people, and it was amazing, and it was just that giving back piece. And I thought real estate was one of the biggest investments that people make in their lives, that it would be something for me to be able to give back on a much bigger scale in helping people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm so glad you brought that up because I know that you and I have had conversations about how real estate can really change someone's life, just, not only financially, but also just having that safety, that peace of mind that you own a property. You're not going to be at the mercy of the rent going up where you would have to move again, but, just that psychological safety and that financial security is a big part of real estate.
Absolutely, and I think that everybody deserves to have a stable place to call home.
As you were mentoring me when I first got into real estate, and that's how our friendship developed, is you were my mentor when I first got into real estate. And a big thing that you taught me was to really keep those relationships and those contacts with folks, to keep those relationships active and really nurture that. And I know that you're really good at that. How has that helped you in real estate?
I have made some of my very best friends in real estate. And I tell you that it starts from day one, and really listening and deepening those relationships, because it becomes a friendship, and it's before they even close on their house. It really does. It becomes a friendship. You know a lot about them. They know a lot about you. And then afterwards, we're spending time with them. It could be 30 days. It could be 60, 90. We're spending a lot of time together. And then when the deal is done, it's like all of a sudden a light switch goes off and you're not in contact with these people anymore. Sometimes you feel like you're losing a friend, right? So I've developed a system really that I stay in touch with everyone, and it makes me feel so good. And it also lets them know too, it was never just a transaction. It was building a relationship, and helping them into homeownership in one way or another, or out of homeownership for different scenarios. And I think that just genuinely caring just builds friendships. So I've met really some of my best friends.
Yeah, and that is so key. I really want to emphasize that point, that you really do genuinely care about your customers. And I know that all of the accolades that I listed off at the beginning, you being a top producer and Rookie of the Year, I know that that's just almost a secondary effect of the fact that you care about folks and you have their best interest in mind. And because of that, you get referrals and you get repeat customers. And it's just really fascinating to see how that works, because even though you are a very dedicated, very disciplined, very consistent individual, you also have that aspect where you're doing it because you genuinely care. Yeah, so.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people just forget that we're in sales, right? Just like a lot of other sales positions. In sales, it's not about the sale. It's about taking care of the person. It's a service.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's right. Yeah, and it reminds me of a quote I heard. I can't remember who said this originally, but it's something along the lines of they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yes.
Yeah, and that's another thing that I picked up from working with you, is just showing that genuine interest and having clients' best interests in mind during the entire transaction.
Always. And through real estate, there's a lot of hills and bumps that happen, and if they know you, they like you, they trust you from the very beginning, they know that anytime anything comes up, they know that you're going to take care of them. Yeah. And it makes everything a lot less stressful for all parties involved.
Yeah, and it definitely is. Real estate is probably the biggest purchase that most people ever make. So definitely a stressful situation, a lot of moving pieces.
Yes.
What part of your job brings you the most joy?
My motto is to bring smiles to the closing table. And I usually, if there's another agent involved, I usually tell them that that's my goal, is to have everyone smiling at the closing table, all parties, the buyer, the seller, the agent, all parties smiling at the closing table. I think that day when we get there, no matter the hills, the bumps throughout the transaction, when everybody is smiling and there's hugs, there could be tears that we're sharing. It doesn't matter what type of transaction it was, because there's a lot of different things, right? There's death and divorce and some of the not so fun reasons why people need to move. When I can bring some of those stresses down and just have the genuine connection at the end, I think that is my favorite. The relationship building, it is my favorite piece.
That's awesome. That is great, and yeah, you're definitely good at that. And you touched on another interesting aspect about the real estate business, is that it really is kind of a small circle, and And being able to work well with other agents, brokers, and other individuals in the industry, I mean, that's a big thing as well. And I know you've been able to navigate that, and I know that you're very respected in the industry. And yeah, also a really good point, keeping those professional relationships consistent, and yeah, just keeping them to where you can do repeat business.
Absolutely. Well, and I think that it's so important because we are in a high stress position, right? There's a lot of agents on other sides, no matter what it looks like. They might be more stressed for whatever reason, right? So it can become somewhat
A little contentious.
hostile, maybe sometimes. But anyway, I think that when you have that commonality in the very beginning and you can just bring in, hey, we're both in this together. We both have the same end goal. And there are times where you have to come up with everybody's going to give up something, right? Or we're just going to meet on a middle ground. When you have that with an agent and you can be laughing and talking and sharing stories, you get to the closing table and your buyer and seller can sit and share stories together, and they can just be, sharing the stories about their house and them raising their kids or whatever that looks like. It's a pretty magical moment at the very end.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. And I totally understand what you're talking about. I mean, you got to be a tough negotiator, but at the end of the day, we're all in the industry together, and we're going to work together again, potentially in the future. So yeah, just maintaining that strong working relationships. All right. So because this is a podcast about all four aspects of a fulfilled life, we are going to touch a little bit on fitness. And I know that you and your husband are very into fitness. Will you tell us a little bit about the role that fitness has played in your life?
Absolutely. So fitness, to be honest with you, has changed my life in a lot of different ways. And I think that it's really feeling good about yourself, but it's also, in the strangest way, my release for a lot of things. Again, high stressful job. My gym is my peace. I can be there. I'm completely just present at the gym. And it's one more rep. It's not thinking about anything else that's happening, but it also keeps me moving, and it just makes me feel better. I eat incredibly healthy, and I think that that's so important for any high stressful job, high producing jobs. When you're on the go all the time, you have to feel good. You have to be able to take care of yourself to take care of other people.
Yeah, that is so key. And I'm totally with you, because I also am really into fitness. And my thing is more cardio. I really enjoy cardio, because when I'm just running or out cycling or swimming, and the only thing I can think about is breathing. So there's nothing else going on in my mind, just kind of just breathing. And like you said, just the next rep for you, the next set is what you think about. And it's almost like meditation, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Right. And I feel like it runs along the same lines as, if you get up and make your bed first thing in the morning, right? You've done a task, that starts your entire day.
Right.
You get up, you go to the gym, or whatever, you go for your run or you go for your swim, whatever that looks like, you're setting your whole day up. And if you have that consistency in your morning, then it turns into your entire day has just this routine. And if you can get up and do the run or go to the gym or whatever it looks like, if you can do that every day, to me, you can pretty much accomplish everything. And it also shows you, especially on the days that you don't want to. Some days I wake up and I'm like, I don't want to go to the gym today. But I get up and I go anyway. And I think that those are the most important days. When you don't feel like doing it, you should definitely do it.
That's right. Yeah. And that's another thing I've learned from you, is just that consistency.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's a lot of times we don't feel like doing something, and especially in real estate, because a lot of times we're often our own bosses, and it's like, oh, it's a Wednesday, I don't feel like doing much work today. But being consistent, staying disciplined, and I can see how that kind of flows through all of the aspects of your life with maintaining your business in real estate, but also maintaining your fitness, and then being a mother and a wife. Yeah, so that's really key. Again, I think just maintaining that physical strength and that physical well-being. It helps in so many different areas. It gives you energy, but I found that it also just gives you a better mindset to where you can overcome challenges and different obstacles.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think too, I mean, you're in the gym or you're going for a run, and it's that, how far did you go last time? Can you push one more? Can you push one more? It was Ed Milet that said that good people or average people will do what they need to do. Great people will always do one more.
That's right. Yeah, such a good motto.
Yeah.
And
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Always do a little bit more than what's required. Yeah, that is awesome. And I know, and I don't think you're a big drinker either, right?
No.
I don't drink alcohol at all. And I find that early in my career, I did used to drink, and it was just part of the field that I work in finance. It's a stressful day, very hectic, very fast paced. So at the end of the day, a lot of folks, would go out for cocktails, go out for scotch, and just a way to kind of take the edge off. And I found that for me, cardio, running, cycling, it's way better
Absolutely.
than drinking. And not only because the endorphins make me feel better, but also because the next day I feel good and I'm not hungover.
Right. Oh, absolutely. And I agree. I actually haven't drank for over 14 years. I just don't, I love how those endorphins feel, and I feel that alcohol masks, that feeling of, the stress is still there,
Right.
but it's not fixing it. It's just masking it to where when you go and you create those endorphins and they're burning in your body, I mean, it really does help you.
Yeah.
It's a natural way to not necessarily fix, but it helps you get through it.
Absolutely, yeah, and nothing against folks that enjoy
No.
drinking, but it's not for us.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So, what does faith look like in your life?
I am a firm believer that we all have to believe in something bigger, and it doesn't. To me, it really. I mean, I have faith in God, but I have a very spiritual background, right? And I've dipped into a whole bunch of different religions, and to me, it's really the faith that everything is going to work out. I fully believe that we all have a book that's pretty much already been written, and it's up to us on how we go through this story, and I look into, especially when there's hard times and stuff like that. I mean, I need my quiet time, my meditation. Sometimes that means the gym, just to clear everything. And I think that it's up to every person to kind of find out what that looks like for them, because it can be completely different for every single person. But just to have that belief that there is something bigger that's helping us through some of those hard times.
Yeah, and I think that's so key. Just believing or having faith in something greater than us, and I think that really kind of puts it all in perspective, right? I mean, if we're struggling, if we're stressed out, but we realize, hey, there's something out there that's greater than all of this, and we're working towards something. Is that kind of how you feel?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we just have to be grounded. I feel more connected to the earth. So sometimes it's really just to put myself into nature and just stop and just take things in. My social media is full of sunsets and beach pictures, and because that's where I am completely grounded. And I fully believe that that's my church, is just being outside and being completely connected with everything that's natural around me.
That's amazing, yeah, and I love hearing that because, as you know, I'm a practicing Catholic, so my view on faith is completely different. But it's great to hear your view and learn, and yeah, I got to try that. Maybe get out in nature a little bit more and really kind of soak that in and feel connected with the bigger creation.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we talked about real estate as being an outlet for maintaining friendships and communicating with folks and keeping those relationships active. But how do you find time for your non-real estate friendships, or do you differentiate those?
So a lot of my friends have become friends because of real estate, right? So there's a lot of times within real estate. So I do a lot of client appreciation events, but those are my friends, So when I'm having these events, it's having my friends over. We're doing something at a farm for Halloween, or we're going to do an Easter egg hunt, or we're doing something with Santa for Christmas, whatever it looks like. It's really those gatherings. So I do a lot of that within real estate to kind of keep that balance. But with family, they're pretty much scheduled appointments in my world. And I actually work around my family schedule more than I work around my business schedule, because my family is number one. So they are appointments in my calendar that I mean, my kids are only going to be in my house for so long, right? And as of now, I've only got about 3 years left before the youngest graduates. And their time is so special to me. And I want them to remember that mom was present. So when I got into real estate, I always promised I would never miss anything. So I don't. With friends, it's scheduling. And it sounds awful to say, hey, I need to put you on my calendar. But at the same time, most of them understand that I'm incredibly busy, but I do want time with them. So it could be going to play Topgolf, or even just sitting down for coffee sometimes. it's so important to me to keep those balances because they're all important to me. And I think that my kids, my husband, my friends, they've all helped me to become where I'm at today. And me giving my time back to them, I think that it's a thank you. And to have them present in my life, I appreciate them so much.
Yeah, that's amazing. And you gave us so much great info there in that response. And I just want to unpack it a little bit because, kind of what I gathered was two really important things. One, that you can have a great family life and a successful career, because I personally know how busy you are, and but I also know that your family comes first, and it is possible. Like you said, you prioritize, you schedule, and you really can have the best of both worlds. Whereas oftentimes we might think, well, if I'm going to be focused on my career, I might not have enough time or bandwidth to have a family. But yeah, you are one of the folks that showed that it is possible. And the other thing that I just heard there, which is great, and I think this would be really good for our listeners, for our viewers, is that your friends and your clients are kind of one and the same. And I think that's so important in business and in your career, to have those relationships with folks that you enjoy being with. And if you're in business and if you're working with folks that you enjoy working with, that you enjoy being around, then it makes it just that much more fulfilling, and it makes it less of a burden having those people in your circle, those customers, those clients, whatever you might call them, and actually looking forward to interacting with them instead of dreading it, thinking, oh no, I gotta go meet with this person, I gotta call this person. But you just said that you enjoy time with them, and that is so key, I think, and I think it's really important for our viewers, our listeners, to hear that.
Absolutely. And I think that any successful person, and it is hard to find that balance, and I am not without accidents, and this is, having to miss a volleyball game and seeing how that made my kid feel, or, how it made me feel. And I think that it actually, during those type of situations, it bothers me more than it bothers my kid. But to miss, friends' birthday parties or something like that, it makes me feel awful. And I think that finding that balance in one way or the other, and if you need help, find a coach. So I do have a coach that actually helps me and helps me find my work-life balance. And it's actually your faith, your work, your family, right? So you've got everything, but it has to be all balanced. And to have that piece all completely balanced, you can be incredibly successful while you are still taking care of your family and your faith. Like, everything does have to be balanced.
Yeah,
and taking care of yourself.
Right. That's awesome. That is so key. And because we all know folks that are successful, but maybe they're not as happy or as healthy. And like you said, having that balance, I think that is key.
Absolutely. And I've helped quite a few people that have become as successful as I am, to help kind of bring them back a little bit, because they are missing, some of their kids' extracurricular activities, stuff like that, and to bring them back in and have them tell me that I've helped change their lives because they can see that everything can be balanced. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you are a great mentor, and again, I'm very happy that I was able to connect with you on that mentorship level. You helped me when I started in real estate, and again, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast today. I know how busy you are. Before we wrap up, though, I do want to give you a chance to just tell our listeners, our viewers, where they can find you so they can connect with you further if they want to learn about real estate or maybe some of the other things that you're involved with.
Absolutely. You can find me on any of the social media outlets. It's Holly Sells CO, and it's on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'm everywhere.
That's right.
And my website also is hollysellsco.com. So it's very simple to find me.
All right, awesome. And so as we wrap up here, what I like to do at the end of every podcast is I do have 3 kind of off-the-cuff questions, and you have no idea what these are, but I think that's the fun of it. I think that's going to help our viewers and our listeners just kind of learn more about you on a personal level. So you ready for this?
I'm ready.
All right, so our first question is, what is your favorite movie, your all-time favorite movie?
Oh gosh, I have a lot of them. So one movie that I can watch over and over and over again is Pretty Woman. That's one of my favorite movies.
That's definitely a classic, yeah. Absolutely a good movie. All right, and I can't remember the last time I saw that, but since you mentioned it, it kind of makes me want to go back and watch that again. Great movie. All right, so now, your all-time favorite book.
I love It's called Mr. Schmooze. It is an incredible business book, and that is one of my favorites that I can read over and over and over again. It's about a man that is very giving and building relationships, and it basically, I thought that I was great at building relationships and connecting with people. He's way better. So learning, that book is absolutely amazing.
Mr. Schmooze. Okay, I'm going to check that one out for sure
Absolutely.
as well. I'm not a big reader, but I'll put it on my Audible list, and I do audiobooks all the time.
It's good for the car.
Awesome. Yeah, and it's just so key. And, I do want to touch on a different episode on building those relationships and those connections because as we know, AI, artificial intelligence, is going to be such a game changer here in the next few years. And, I think back when I first started diving down that rabbit hole and learning about AI, and I was thinking, well, my finance job will be gone because the AI can do it, but what can the AI not do? And it's that connection,
Absolutely.
that human connection. So definitely a really good skill to learn, and I'm going to listen to that book ASAP. All right, so our last question. If you could interview anyone, either living or dead, who would it be?
So this is funny. I just went to the Taylor Swift concert, which I am not a Swiftie, but my girls love her, and they really wanted to go. So, and of course, it was mom and her girls. So we went to the Taylor Swift concert, and I didn't know very many songs, but I watched this woman on stage, and she's built an incredible business. She's so very confident, and everything that she's created, I think she's playing 144 concerts in this year. And she performed for 3 hours nonstop, but her confidence and the skill set that she has used to build what she has and to create the fan base that she has. I would love to sit down with her for 30 minutes and just talk to her about what she's built, because she inspired me. And I was at her concert for 3 hours, well, a lot longer than that actually, but I fell in love with this woman as a businesswoman. She really has just created something so phenomenal that not very many of us can touch that. So I would love to sit down with her. And that's actually, we call it a BHAG, a big, hairy, audacious goal.
Yes.
Right? So it might be something that we'll never touch,
right,
but it's something that we should aim for.
Yes.
And if I'm aiming for that, to just sit down and talk to this woman for 30 minutes,
right,
it could lead me to other things.
Yeah. Wow, that is amazing because I am totally not a Taylor Swift fan. But now that you mention all this, and I think back, yeah, she's been famous. She's been in the spotlight for a long time, and she's maintained that level of popularity, that level of success that we don't see too often. She was a young singer, almost a child singer, and she's been able to live a relatively normal, by celebrity standards, normal life, I think. And that is really something I never would have thought of.
One thing that actually really stood out was that she got a lot of negativity, right?
Yes.
Being in her position,
Right.
super famous, there are going to be the people that don't like her, but they're going to be the people that don't like her that actually tell her,
Right.
telling her she's ugly or this or that, whatever they're saying to her. It actually made her want to quit at some point. She ended up using it. There was one point that somebody had said that she looked like a snake or was a snake, one of the two. And she almost broke, and she decided to use that as her ladder to become more successful. And she now uses the snake in a lot of her performances. So you will see as she's on stage, there will be some kind of snake that pops up in those, because that is what fuels her. It makes her better. The love, and even her fans. I've never been in a place more energetic, and the people were so kind. It was a very strange feeling. 75,000 people in a stadium, and people would just walk up and say, "You're beautiful," or, "I love your outfit," or whatever. And I think that she has created a very loving following. I think it's beautiful.
Wow. Yeah. Well, thanks for educating me on that, because, again, I'm not a country music fan, definitely not a Taylor Swift fan, but I think there's something we can learn from a lot of different people. For me, that's one of the main motivators in life, is learning and growing. And I just learned something from you, and I learned about Taylor Swift, and it's such an interesting story. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. And any last piece of advice that you want to give to our audience?
I think that my only advice always is that if you're afraid to do something, the biggest fear is that first step. You just have to take it.
Great advice. Perfect advice. All right. Well, thank you again for joining us. And I look forward to chatting with you in the future. And again, folks, if you want to connect with Holly, you can find her at Holly Sells CO. Thank you.
Thank you.